Hello and welcome to Bird Brains, the YouTube channel devoted to all things avian. I'm Lev Parikian, author of Why Do Birds Suddenly Disappear and the creator of the Twitter Birdsong Project, and I'm joined as always by David Darrell Lambert, professional ornithologist and author of, what's that book called? Bird
Watching London.
Don't know. David, how are you doing?
I'm good. Well, as good as I could be in lockdown.
Yeah, it was beginning to wear a bit thin.
Oh, yeah, it is. Certainly is.
How's it all been this week? Have you been quite busy, I think, with surveys and stuff? Is that right?
Yeah, I've been very busy with surveys. So I was learning about little terns with a friend of mine, and he was talking about how they often come in early in the breeding season and then don't settle down. And then after they have a big high tide in like May, they then reappear in the area and start nesting like crazy. So I don't know if they're geared up to a big high tide and they think, right, egg laying time, whoosh. So I don't know.
They're quite vulnerable. I mean, they're quite a rare-ish breeding bird in this country, and they've come all the way from Africa to lay their eggs, haven't they? So
yeah, often on the shoreline, so they get issues with high tides and stuff like that. There was a site I remember hearing where the wardens at high tides used to pick up all the eggs, take them away, and then when the tide went out, put them back in, and then the terns came back on.
Oh, that's amazing. I mean, I know sometimes on those acknowledged breeding sites you'll have ropes with messages to the public because people can quite easily sort of wander into the nesting sites very easily without even realising it. The trouble is that when you put a rope around something saying "do not enter," quite a lot of people just tend to kind of go, "Oh, okay, I'll go in there then." So there's no accounting for that kind of stupidity anyway. So my excitement this week, well, apart from the thing that last week in our little chat before we recorded, I told you that I'd never see collared doves in the area, even though they're really pretty common in London. And what did I see yesterday? I saw a collared dove hanging out with, trying to be a wood pigeon, I think. It was hanging out with a group of wood pigeons. So that was quite exciting. But also I did do, within all legal guidelines, a friend invited me down to Sussex to go and try and listen to some nightingales, which we did, and we managed to find them. We're all social distancing, of course, as indeed were the nightingales. It was quite a windy day, so they were a little bit patchy. The song, you know how sometimes they don't quite get going full on, but it was still a treat to hear. There were three of them in separate little patches, but two of the patches were quite close together. And my friend asked me what size their what their territory size would normally be, and I had no real answers for it because I thought it might depend on various factors. Was I right?
Yeah, it does depend on a lot of different factors. So one is habitat. So the better your habitat and the more prime real estate is, the higher the density of birds will generally be. But it's also affected by bird abundance. If you've got a species that's got very low threshold in this UK, then the population is probably going to be low no matter how good the habitat is. But something like a nightingale that's still doing okay. I mean, it's in concern.
Hanging in there.
Yeah. If the habitat's really good, you can get really good densities of them. But you're also affected by the fact that you're a bit late in the season for them because they've come in sort of like mid-April. They sing like bananas, first of all, night and day. And then as soon as they pair up and then the female lays eggs and maybe potentially young soon, they're going to become less vocally active as well. And the days are longer. So dawn is now more like about 4 o'clock in the morning, 3:30, 4. And you probably turned up at maybe, I don't know, 10 or 11.
Yeah, it wasn't early, that's for sure. Yeah. Can't be doing with that in lockdown. But it is quite a short season, isn't it? I mean, it's, as you say, they'll be gone by June, won't they? They'll stop. I mean, they'll stop singing by next week, probably.
Yeah.
Excellent. So that's a good one. Now, nothing to do with what we're really here to talk about, which is finches. You got a whole thing ready on finches.
I do indeed. Let's see if I can get this screen sharing business working again. I think I'm waiting for you to enable it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Glasses on. Enable David's screen. First time I've had to do a retake. So this week you're going to talk to us about finches, I think, which there are a fair number of about the place. And I was going to ask you first, just to introduce the subject a little bit, how you might, if you're out and about, how you might tell a member of the finch family from a member of, for example, the tit family or chats or thrushes or whatever.
Yeah, well, finches and like buntings, we'll class them together, have very obvious triangular shaped bills, and it's because they eat a lot of seeds. They need a bit more strength in them to like crush the seed. If you compare it to the tit species, which tend to be a much thinner looking bill, and that's because they're going to be eating more insects-based diet, that sort of thing. That's a really good indicator. They also tend to have forked tails as well, but that's quite hard to see. The bill is really the good aspect of them.
Yeah. So that's good. So, and there's quite a few common ones. I mean, I know we have goldfinches that come to our garden feeders a lot. Maybe you can just talk us through the different kinds and how we might tell them all apart.
Yeah, well, we're going to go through the ones with a smaller bill and that are brightly coloured first of all. So the first two we've got is going to be the goldfinch versus the chaffinch, really. Both a whole load of colour, but it's very simple ways to try and work out what they are. Normally, I'm really looking at the wings. So if you look on the chaffinch, you've got these two bold white wing bars on them. And then on the goldfinch, you've got a nice big patch of gold on the wing as well. Very easy. Then if you look at the head, it's black, white and red on the goldfinch. And the chaffinch has got this nice pinky look to it as well. So fairly distinctive in that respect.
Yeah. Excellent.
Then when we look at the females and the young ones, we can carry on just looking at the wings again. That really tells us what's going on. So again, the young goldfinch doesn't have the head pattern of the adults, but it's that gold on the wing, and the female chaffinch and young ones both have the two double white wing bars. Fairly straightforward.
Excellent. And so those are possibly the two most common members of the family, I think.
Yeah, I would definitely say so.
Yeah. Certainly, goldfinches seem to be on the way up, or they've not done badly. I've noticed quite a lot of them. We have them around here all the time. Chaffinches have declined a lot since my childhood, I'm pretty sure, but I still hear them quite a lot when I go out and about with their fantastic descending song. Now then, here's a couple of other ones. The hawfinch has got a fantastic bill, isn't it?
Yeah. Both of these ones have got huge, great big bills. So we've got the bullfinch on the left and the hawfinch on the right. The bullfinch is much commoner but very secretive, and hawfinch is much rarer and again also very secretive. But really, I'm looking at the head first of all. You've got the nice black cap and dark bill on the bullfinch, and the hawfinch has got this like orangey sort of light head, but it's a great big massive pale bill as well. The tail on the hawfinch is very short, which you can't really see in this picture, right. And the bullfinch has a really nice white rump as well. Makes it a very soft little call as well. But calls is very hard to get into because there's a whole load to explain about songs, calls.
There's so many sounds and calls. The thing I think about the bullfinch is it looks good with that red front. It looks quite aggressive, doesn't it? And then it opens its mouth and it has this kind of feeble, wispy kind of song, which isn't at all what you'd expect from something that has that strong colouring. So moving on, so the hawfinch has got that thing. Hawfinches are a pretty rare breeder in the country, aren't they? But they do sometimes have influxes in the winter, don't they?
Yeah, and we also have a really good density of them in places like the New Forest. Right. Typically, go to a roost site where you can see them quite well. It's always a good point to do. And in the continent, they're pretty common and widespread. They're more like a garden bird, in all honesty.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'd love to see them on our features, that's for sure. And there's female.
Female, very monochrome, but still got that black cap to it as well, which is very nice.
Yeah, excellent.
So then we're going to jump into the greenish ones, and we've got here two really nice ones, the greenfinch and the siskin. Siskin, much more localised, although very common in Scotland. And greenfinch numbers starting to pick up again. With the greenfinch, it's mostly green and yellow. But with the siskin, you've got a lot of mixture of black in it with these two really nice broad wing bars on the bird as well.
I think those two are the ones that people might most easily confuse, if I might suggest that. I think because of that green colouring. But you can see quite clearly there, the strength of that contrast on the siskins really, really strong.
Yeah, very acrobatic feeders as well. So they're like alders and silver birches, and they hang upside down and they're pulling all the seeds out as well. Very nice.
Fantastic, quite the sight. I love the Greenfinch because of that's again, we're not. You said we weren't going to talk about songs, but it does have that fantastic sort of brrr at the end of its song quite often, and then brrr, kind of zuzzing snore thing. And in dull light, carry on.
Yeah, so in dull light, the male greenfinch is not always that gaudy looking. And the other thing about the greenfinch is it's got this nice big fat yellow rump on it as well. And then we can have a look at the female jobs as well. The female greenfinch is very dull looking, dull grey-green, but the siskin is still quite bright, just lots of streaking on it. So again, the wing bar on the siskin really stands out very well, and the heavy streaking as well.
Quite a big difference once you get a look at them. Interestingly, that greenfinch, apart from the head and bill, it's done a key grey to that there, isn't it? With that sort of lack of colour. So try and get a look at the bill, and that'll help you separate it. We don't get siskins around here very much, but I do encounter greenfinches, and I love them. Oh, yes, streaky ones, streaky little ones.
Streaky, yeah. People always get a bit freaked out with streaks on the bird. I don't know why. But we've got here the red poll, lesser red poll, and also the linnet. Just going to briefly look at these because they're not often a common species. But with the red poll, it's got the nice big red on the forehead and the little black chin strap and the white creamy wing bars, very streaked all over. With the linnet, it tends to have a much blander looking head and doesn't have any red on top normally in the winter time, or the black chin patch. They do go very red on the front in the summer and on the head. It looks more like they've been splashed in red paint.
Yeah, it's quite striking as if somebody's thrown something at them.
Yeah. Really nice. That's normally a shorter duration that they're looking like that.
Right, so the red poll's red crown is pretty diagnostic, isn't it? And you're probably going to get a decent sight of it if it's around at all.
Yeah, very dainty looking finch as well. In the old days, when I was young in the 70s and 80s, there were loads of them knocking around, in local parks and stuff. Wasn't unusual in Bruce Castle Park in Tottenham, that there was a flock of like 60 or 70 knocking around. Yeah, their numbers are, if I see one now, I'm thinking, oh, that's a really good day, really noteworthy day if I catch one.
Yeah. Well, that's a way of things, I think, with a lot of bird species, unfortunately. That's fantastic. Is that all a lot? Yes, I think that's
a lot. That's a lot.
That's a lot of information for people to take in. Really useful stuff. I've learned a lot already. We have, in fact, to move on, we have had a couple of questions, which is extremely exciting. I'm going to need my glasses for this. So one question from somebody who has a bird bath, Claire on Twitter. Why do birds drink from my bird bath and then promptly about turn and crap in the damn thing? Pardon me.
I don't know. Maybe there's just a way of leaving their territory. I don't know. I've not noticed it, but my bird bath is generally quite dirty, so it gets a good clean fairly regularly.
Yeah, and they seem to be doing okay. Although actually that leads to one thing that I kind of meant to ask about finches, which is some of them are very prone to certain kinds of diseases, aren't they? Thinking of greenfinches at feeders and chaffinches with the things like papilloma. And
that's why it's really important to clean your feeders. Mine are filthy and they need a good clean. Probably tomorrow.
That's where they can pick these things up and they'll come in numbers. And it's been quite a serious thing for greenfinches, especially, I think.
Yeah, their numbers really plummeted. This used to be very common when I was a kid, but now they're starting to pick up, but they're nowhere near the level that they were in historically.
Yeah. And the second question was, can I feed the birds in my garden with maggots? The mealworms are costing me a fortune. So they've got a very hungry set of robins and other birds coming in and having all the mealworms.
Well, I agree that mealworms are very expensive. I stopped using them because I used to put like a 4 or 5 pound bag out there and it'd be gone like in minutes.
Gone, yeah.
Starlings would just demolish the whole lot. So I don't feed them because I can't afford it. But I don't know if there's a problem with maggots. It's probably all right.
Yeah, so maybe they're a keen fisherman and they got some maggots, maggot surplus. Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions about what to feed birds. I mean, I've noticed that from our feeders, some of the birds are quite messy and they're quite picky. So the goldfinches especially will sit there for quite a long time and they'll pick things out, throw them on the floor, and then eat other things. And I suppose there are questions about, should you be feeding certain things that are full of salt, or when I was a kid, we used to throw out bacon rinds and old bits of bread and any old stuff. And if they didn't eat it, they were just going to sit there and rot, and they wouldn't have it. But are there any particular guidelines as to what not to feed birds, do you think? Or
I generally don't put out any garden scraps at all, really. I mean, my grandfather, when I was a kid, he used to put out the whole turkey carcass after a roast and let all the birds eat that, and then foxes or whatever came in and finished it off. But I don't do any of that, mostly because I'm aiming to give them much more high, rich protein food. So I've got like peanuts on there, sunflower hearts and mixed seed. And they go down varying to what species are more prevalent. So the sunflower hearts get demolished by the goldfinches in a couple of days.
Yeah.
You know, and a mixed seed takes a bit longer to go down, really. And the peanuts take forever. And I just normally, after like a couple of weeks, scatter them on top and the pigeons come along and eat them.
And the peanuts do go mouldy quite quickly, I think.
Yeah, I don't leave them out for too long. You know, stick them out, my wood pigeons or the badgers come in and eat them. And, you know, just put some fresh ones out, really.
And some people, of course, get rats coming in for the leftovers underneath the feeders, which is always a bit of a problem. We do. I think the biggest waste of money I ever had was buying when we wanted to get goldfinches in. Reading about it and people saying, "Oh, Niger, Niger seed is perfect." So I bought a whole 3 kilo pack of it and a special Niger feeder, filled it up, and the goldfinches came and ate the sunflower seeds next to it, completely ignored the Niger seeds. So other people have had different experiences, I suppose.
It's funny because it's the same with my goldfinches and Niger seed. I used to put Niger seed out in the winter; they would eat it, it'd be a real slow burn. But sunflower hearts all year round, it's like they're dry. They're like form in, stuff their face, and then off again.
And they do tend to sit at that. I've noticed that the goldfinches do tend to sit at the feeder for quite a long time. Where blue tits will kind of come from do a raid from a tree and then go straight back. The goldfinches will be standing around chatting a load of rubbish while eating the food. Excellent. That's all really useful stuff. Thanks very much indeed, David. A really invaluable resource for finch identification and good info about nightingales and all that sort of stuff. Thank you very much for watching. You can subscribe down there, I think. If you want to buy us a coffee, we like coffee, you can do that down there too. And we'll see you next week for more bird brains. Thanks very much, David. Bye.
Yes, bye.